Welcome to the Soul Engineering Your Life podcast. I'm Ravi Tangri, your Soul Engineer. I work with business owners, CEOs, and professionals to help them grow their business and get their life back. And this podcast is designed to help you step out of the busyness, out of the crazy, and bring more heart and soul into all of your life.
Check it out, check it out. Oh, are you ready for this?
I'm really frustrated, and I'm wondering, why do I bother? It's August 16th, 2015, and I am setting up for a salsa street party in Halifax. We've seen them in other cities, larger cities like Toronto, going on for days and such. And I'm a part of the dance community in Halifax, and I just love dance. And I just thought it would be amazing to do this. We dance on the waterfront, different waterfronts around here, but it would be amazing to have day-long salsa street party. And there's a street in Halifax, Argyle Street, downtown, that they are bringing community events in every weekend. And because it's Argyle Street, they actually painted it in an Argyle pattern for the summer. And I've managed to get our event in here. And I was really, really excited about this. I was thinking, what an amazing experience this can be. It's just to be able to dance with the community on a beautiful day. And it's perfect. It's a beautiful, hot, sunny day. Word is out. We've got all of the salsa schools involved. Two of them are featured because they helped out a bit more. One provided the liability insurance so I could run this event, and another provided the speakers and the amplifier to play the music. So, you would think everything's perfect, but I'm really feeling annoyed because I'm looking at some of the comments that are popping up on Facebook. And for the last few days, it's been the same. It's all nitpicking about why is it this time? Why is it this weekend? Why is this order, the schedule, and so on? Not offers to help. Not any sort of appreciation. I'm not doing it for thanks. I'm not doing it for appreciation. But when you just see complaints about tiny little things when nobody's jumping in to offer to help, it really makes me think, why do I bother? But you know what? I'm committed. It's happening. So I finished the setup, and the day is going amazingly. It is sweltering hot. Someone even loaned me their umbrella to help keep my computer shaded because I was getting worried about it overheating in the sunshine. And everyone who's not dancing is hiding in the shade. In the morning, it was on one side of the street, so everyone was over there. Then as the sun moved, they all went over to the other side of the street because it's so hot, except for me, of course, because I'm set up in the street playing the music. Everyone's having fun. Different salsa schools did classes throughout the day so that people who are new to this could try it out. There's all sorts of opportunities for people to learn, to dance, to try different styles. And I had a blast. I got some dances in. I didn't, I'm enjoying the day. I just feel that of those comments. And then it finishes and, everyone packs up. And again, it's me packing up here. And as I'm doing that, I really have to stop and think about things here. Why do I do things like this? I've organized events for years. I mean, since I was in high school, I used to, look after dances. I ran the Winter Carnival. I did all sorts of things. And I've run national conventions. But when you're giving to a community, I have to think about, what is the motivation? I did this to serve. Absolutely. I didn't do it to get thanks and applause and recognition. But I'm realizing that when what you get is all the nitpicking, all the annoying, that there has to be a what's in it for me. Even if you're doing it for service, to serve others, to support others, there is something there, even if it's not getting negativity. And as I'm packing up now, I really start to think, okay, why do I invest me into things? What is it that I need? And think about other people as well. When they do things, what is it that they need from it? It's not necessarily for recognition and whatever, but there's something. And getting nitpicking and criticisms and complaints is not something you do this sort of thing for. And I start to realize now how valuable, how precious my time is. And I think I want to give my time to people who appreciate it, to people who actually value it. And I didn't feel that. Yes, everybody had fun, but I didn't get that feedback for myself. And so now I'm going to think very carefully about where I put my energy, where I put my time, because it is precious. And I want to make sure that it's appreciated by the people who receive it. And I think that's a good decision to make.
I know I got this. Just watch me do this.
I am absolutely delighted to have Sarah McVanel with me here today. Sarah is a fellow CAPS member, and she helps leaders leverage the exponential power of recognition to retain top talent. And she jokes that it's the only lane that pulls together a BA in Psych, a master's in family relations, and 20 years practicing organizational development and certifications in HR. Organizational development, coaching, speaking, and healthcare admin. Shovel it all in there. She left her senior leadership role 5 years ago to launch her boutique firm, Greatness Magnified, authoring books, vlogging, Tap dancing. See, I knew there was a reason that we hit it off.
Yeah,
We're both
we're on that dancing sort of mutual love there. Yeah.
Totally. And getting up to no good with our hubby, Mark, and her kids, Justin and Simonne. Sarah, welcome to
thanks,
Soul
Abby.
Engineering Your Life.
I'm thrilled to be here. Let's soul engineer together.
Absolutely. So I totally understand what you mean about bringing all these disparate areas together. But to me, what that does is it gives you insights that people may not have if they have had a more direct track. Do you find the same?
Yes. And I can't wait to meet that person who has a direct track in their career. That will be a fascinating person to study. But no, I absolutely agree. You know, one of the things that I've been really grateful for is most of my career was in healthcare. And if there's a more complex system to run, I don't know what it is. So it's allowed me to be really curious and to be, I guess, better able to be comfortable with not having the solution, the answer, and to keep seeking it, because we didn't have all the answers in healthcare. Not that most, industries do, but you're constantly needing to seek innovative solutions to the both and. So yes, I am thrilled to have this mutt of a background because it allows you to be the most curious, constant learner. And I know you are too, Ravi.
Absolutely. And I've done a lot of work in healthcare, so I so see the need for your expertise because I'll be blunt. There's a lot of times there's a dearth of leadership because there's no one's trained in that. All of a sudden they get promoted and people don't necessarily get treated well, and people don't appreciate the value of it. I find it's like I spent a lot of time, 10 years before that, working with the military, and I found they were similar in that they worked very well in a crisis. Mm-hmm. So when we were at war, the military was great. Mm-hmm. Now with COVID, the healthcare system is very focused, but when there's not a crisis, it seems effective. Did you experience that effectiveness just isn't as good?
Well, we have a lot of really unique roles that all come together and have to cohabitate in the same house, So you've got procurement and finance and human resources, and of course all the clinical services sides of the house, both the frontline patient facing as well as the behind the scenes supporting patient care. And so when you have such a diverse group of people who have different agendas coming to the table, that's when, we don't have the seamlessness, both of leadership as well as of care and support. Mm-hmm. And I think any organization, no doubt, has the potential for that. We talk a lot about silos. Yes. Well, this is silos in action, is when my expertise, my department, my division has our opinion, and it's perhaps an imposement to yours. So one of the things that is most effective in any organization, and certainly the most successful healthcare organizations with the best employee and patient experience, are leaders who believe this is a we, not a me. So not my department, my staff, my mandate, it's ours.
Yes.
That's, and really there is no one department that can solve the really big, important issues in healthcare in any organization when they're doing it on their own, in their own silo.
Absolutely not. So when we're so busy, when we've got all these demands, and especially now, you talk about healthcare, oh my God, the demands right now. Why is recognition so important when we're so busy? We've got so many demands on our time and our resources. Do they really need that on top of everything else?
It's a great question because we often think it's another thing to do, when in actual fact, the research shows us that high recognition environments have way fewer very expensive and time-consuming problems in those areas. So it reduces voluntary turnover, it increases innovation and continuous improvement to actually fix things that, we know are issues that we keep having to firefight our way through. It increases trust and satisfaction and engagement. So in other words, we're more likely to have people bring their best ideas, not call in sick or go off on stress leave, and we're likely not to have that revolving door of talent. So I would say it's an investment of your time. And there's even better news. Ravi, are you ready for even better news?
Okay, let me buckle up.
buckle up, my friend, because it's coming. That the ways that most people say they want to be appreciated are super easy to do. They're not expensive, time consuming. You're nodding your head because you know what's coming next. What do you think? Actually, let me ask you, Robbie, what do you think are the most prevalent ways people want to be appreciated? If you had to put money on it.
Well, thank you, Sarah, for asking me that.
I respect your opinion, so you're welcome. Yes, it is a thank you. Yes. You're very punny. Yes, I love it. Absolutely. It is a thank you. Personal, specific thank you, even better. But 95% of people say, just tell me thank you. 92% of people say personalized, specific, timely, any way you want. Just make sure it's personalized and timely. And 88% of people say, write me a note. And I have many people, busy healthcare leaders and other folks on shop floors, factory floors, and so forth, who take little kudos cards. It can be a word or a few words that you give to somebody or that you put up on the kudos board. You go into any Best Buy, go near the staff room. I'm not responsible for this. They came up with this on their own. They have a little spot where it talks about stars, and the fellow associates and the leaders are encouraged to write each other kudos notes. They're little tiny, I think they're printed on their local printer. Yep. And of course, you're Best Buy, so you've got good quality printers, but whatever, I digress. The point is, it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be time consuming. I always look for it every time I go into a Best Buy. I've never not found it. And I've always found it filled with up-to-date kudos.
Yes.
So that is why when I suspect, and I am not sponsored by Best Buy, and I'm sure that not every Best Buy is perfect yet. Exactly. Yeah, this will be the moment. Here's the thing. And you actually recommended this computer to me when I had to go and buy the computer that the Rockstar Ravi had told me is so now it's going to be sponsored by HP as well. HP Spectrum recommended by Ravi. I went to a number of different places, including Best Buy. I had the best service. They don't make a commission. They work as a team. I had no idea what a Geek Squad was, but they worked as a great team too. So now I'm a Geek Squad convert because they have a strong culture. Yeah. So where will I go the next time I need a computer? Best Buy. And it's a cultural dimension. People think you have to give folks more money. That is a non-competitive environment where people support each other because you're not giving it commission-based. So I encourage anyone who's listening, if you think recognition means incentive programs, comp and benefits, that is a small, not statistically, validated, most important way, with the exception of a few industries. Most of us, most of our folks, just tell me you appreciate me and make sure I believe you.
That's the key. I think there's authenticity. It's not just, oh, nice job, Sarah. Very good.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I wrote an article once that said we should ban the words good job together because you're right. The point is they're often used in a really inauthentic way. Haven't you found that? Oh, good job.
Mm-hmm. You pat them on the head.
Yeah. You pat them on. Exactly. It feels almost paternal, maternal, and not like you're talking with a fellow grown-up who has very specific, meaningful contributions. And yet, do you know what they are?
I wouldn't even say paternal, maternal, because I didn't parent like that. I'd say it's condescending.
Oh, even worse.
Yeah.
Even worse. Yeah.
Do it like that.
Yeah.
So, the thing is, to be able to breathe, to do the time like this, it's interesting. To me, culture, people make big word about. Culture is just the way you do stuff. Mm-hmm. And so it's to be able to breathe, to create that time. How do you shift the culture? Can you show that culture changes? Is there evidence for this by making that time and by actually doing it and building a habit of it?
Well, one of the things that I would say to the folks listening is you're having conversations and meetings anyway. So why not? What have you got to lose? Especially if you're having a cultural crisis or your culture doesn't feel particularly scrumptious for you or any, because if you're not enjoying your own party.
What a scrumptious culture.
A scrumptious culture where people like they want to be there. They want to hang out with the people there. They feel a part of it. They want to nurture it. You know, don't you want to be part of a scrumptious culture?
Totally.
And I bet you any money you have some, if I said to you, Ravi, do you know of an organization that has a scrumptious culture that you've experienced, you felt it before you even knew people?
Totally.
Or yeah. Okay. Tell me, how do you know it's a scrumptious culture?
You feel it because it's how they treat you and it's authentic. Mm-hmm. And the best example I know is the Ritz. For a few years, I did a gig in the Middle East and we did a residential program at the Ritz. And I mean, we stayed at other 4-star hotels where they sucked up to you, but it just was, whereas at the Ritz, it was, you knew that they cared. I check in and by the time I get to the VIP lounge up on the top floor, oh, hello, Mr. Ravi, welcome. But it's authentic. Mm-hmm. And it's not because they've got money. I think they got money because they did it, because they did this.
Lots of high-end places could do those things, couldn't they? But they don't.
But
I think it's
lots of low-end places can do it. It doesn't cost.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you're describing, and I really want to make it super transparent, words like scrumptious can seem trite, meaningless, but I was able to ask you, can you think of a scrumptious culture? And you immediately came up with one. We don't even have to have the exact same definition. I'm not entirely sure I have a definition of a scrumptious culture. It is a knowing. It is a feeling. And that's what what I think is really helpful is that it's about building a culture that you would want to work in. Mm-hmm. If you, the leader, you, the business owner, would want to shop here, work here, receive care here, then probably other people want to be here too. And I'm not saying do everything just according to your needs and wants and so forth. There is certainly a whole body of literature out there that says that we need to be mindful of different ways that people want to be valued and appreciated. And certainly following the platinum rule, treating people the way they want to be treated versus necessarily the way you want to be treated requires us to check in with people to say, how do you most want to be recognized? What would be your favorite activity? If we could have a celebration, what would that look like?
Yes.
And if you can learn that ahead of time so that you pre-plan or you have the intel about what scrumptious might look like for Ravi versus Sarah and where the intersections might be. So this is one of the things that makes it, your original question was, how do we make it manageable? How do we not have extra time that it takes? Well, you could just fill out a form. I have a recognition checklist. It's on my website, Greatness Magnified, under cool stuff. You're welcome to pop a link in your show notes. Grab that sheet, have it, use it, give it out to folks. You could modify it for a customer base. You could use it for suppliers and partners. Because if you know ahead of time what fires people up and what, don't waste your time and your money on the things that are this and focus on the things that elevate.
Right.
And if you have the opportunity to connect, and that's, obviously if you have the time to recognize, make sure it's aligned to that. And don't forget that every conversation you have, every meeting you have, you could be asking first what works as opposed to what we normally do. And I'm sure you have found this in your work. We often go to the problems, fixing the problems. We fixate on problems versus what is working and the people and the innovations, the ideas that they have.
If you can turn them on, they can solve far more than you ever could.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, something I've always said is that people don't quit jobs, they quit bosses. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that?
It's not just I would agree, it's the research.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, absolutely. And depending on which article you read, that proportion may be a little bit different. However, I've yet to find a study. And hey, listeners, by all means, challenge Ravi and I and share with us the research that's different. We would love to see it because we don't like it. Do you like it, Ravi, that that's the stat? People leave bosses, not organizations.
It's sad.
It's a bummer. It's a total bummer. And if one person or two people aren't happy with how you lead, that's not what we're talking about, is it, Ravi? That's you can't make everybody happy.
No.
We're raising teenagers. We know you can't make everybody happy all the time. We're living that dream. But in all seriousness, this is an opportunity. If you have satisfaction scores, engagement scores that are not where you'd like them to be, this is your opportunity to be very humble and to ask. So if in a year from now, we were to have a much different result, what would be different? Mm-hmm. Yes, some dimensions of your leadership will no doubt show up. If you have truly the desire to learn and listen and be curious, and it's not going to be defensive reactions or heaven help us, somebody's going to, get shot down for being honest. The other thing, though, is they're going to reveal dimensions of the culture, processes, and small low-hanging fruit opportunities to improve. And you, by the way, get associated with the successes of those things improving because you're the leader. You get the responsibility when things aren't working well, and you get the, opportunity to celebrate when you are supporting things to turn around as well. So I say to leaders, this is great because it means that you can be the delighter factor. If nobody likes the other bosses, you can be the one that everybody wants to work for.
You can be the cool parent.
Yes, exactly. Be the fun parent, the nice parent that, the one that everybody raves about. And there are, I'm sure you can think, Ravi, of people that you've worked for that you would work for them again in a heartbeat.
Yep.
Can you think of those people
Totally.
Just like that? Can you think of some people you would never work for again, even if they doubled the salary that you were making?
Yeah, I quit the jobs from them. I won't work for an idiot.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's what we're talking about. Those people, they went, yeah, I quit the job. You had even more energy when it came to, yep, absolutely. I can remember those folks. So if you want to change that stat, if that stat, leaders and business owners, really bothers you, be the one that makes that stat extinct. And if everybody took that challenge up, then that changes the dimensions. Let's not hate the stats. Let's not hate the findings. Let's change it so that we don't have that phenomenon anymore.
So that pops something else to mind for me. Another thing that I always talk about, it's something that came out of, I think, Daniel Goleman, who launched EI. He said that 70% of corporate culture is shaped by leadership. So that means if you change your leadership, you change your culture. Would you agree with that?
I would. And here's a small example. So as a senior leader in my last organization, as you had mentioned, was healthcare. Senior team was Tuesdays. On Fridays in the morning, or sometimes all day if the problem was big enough, whatever the issue that we could not figure out how to fix it, why it was happening at senior team, I would go and spend time shadowing somebody who could give me some insight, because I wasn't going to go back to senior team the next Tuesday and be just as foggy brained about it. Now, to be very clear, I was not responsible for any clinical departments. I was public relations. People didn't always want the PR person around. I was organizational development, mergers, acquisitions, community partnerships. So in other words, it was none of my damn business for most of the places where I went. But if we believe it's actually all of our business, then you take responsibility, you take ownership. And so when I initially started asking people, can I follow you for a day? They're like, first of all, who are you? Because nobody knew who a senior team was. And second of all, are you going to come and tell us what we're doing wrong, or you're going to come and judge us? Because that's the assumption, right? Is that you're going to come and just tell us what we're doing that is we should change. And instead, it was just, I'm going to take notes. If you're okay with that, what should I wear? Should I wear runners? Should I put on scrubs? Do I tie my hair back? What do I do? Tell me. And I would purposely want to look like them, but also how am I supposed to move stretchers around a hospital if I'm wearing clicky heels? So
Right.
be them, be one of them, and be so curious and be empathetic. Like, wow, that must be really tough. You're not promising you're going to change it. You're going to be like, wow, that must be tough. You should have 3 times as many social workers around here. You're like, wow, it must be really tough wanting to do the right thing when you're so stretched. Wow. Thank you for sharing that with me. What I came to learn, and to answer your question around shifting culture through our leadership, I could learn anything from any pocket of the organization. And people
Totally.
still to this day, it's actually going on 6 years now that I left, people still tell me stuff. I don't even work there anymore. And I feel so honored that they feel comfortable enough to tell me. I mean, they don't really, not many people tell me stuff, but if I wanted to know, they would tell me. And that's how you earn trust, leaders. You believe that you're one. It's a we, not an us and them. Or if you say that, you behave that way and acknowledge people. When you're physically out there, that's where you see the greatness happening. That's where you see greatness despite all the obstacles. That's where you see the uniqueness, like that gentleman or woman on the 7th floor when they said hello to you and knew your name. You can acknowledge them specifically because you've witnessed that. Wow, that was great. What made you decide to do that? That's amazing. How could we encourage other people to do that too? That's when you learn where your bright spots are of your organization in people and practices so that you can help to replicate it. And it's also how you figure out why things are broken. So believe me, Ravi, I was not the popular one going back on Tuesday morning, knowing sometimes more about how to solve a problem or why a problem's happening than the person overseeing that area.
Right. Because they hadn't done that.
And there's lots of reasons why. We can have many excuses, many legitimate, some meh, as you like to say, meh. But here's the thing. Our job as leaders is not to be popular. Our job is to do the right thing.
Right.
So how do you change a culture? By doing the right thing when it's hard, when nobody's watching, when you're not expected to be, because it is what you owe your shareholders, your stakeholders, the people who work there, and the people you provide service and support to. That's your job, bottom line.
Okay, so that pops another question into my head. I mean, there's one thing when you're in a large organization and you're in a leadership role. What about if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner with a smaller organization, you are the shareholder.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when there's pressure, entrepreneurs can get very, very focused and forget the people a little bit. So how I'm curious if you've run into that in your consulting, is how is it different for business owners in your experience, and any ideas on how they can apply the same resources when the pressure is on them, the buck stops with them?
Yeah. Well, the buck stops with you no matter how big your organization is. And so I love the fact that we're having a conversation about really small organizations, because small doesn't mean ineffective. In fact, you have even more control. You have even more latitude of practicing this. And then as you grow these effective practices with you. So what can entrepreneurs do? You can download the app Love Bomb and put all your contacts in it and send messages to people, your suppliers, your contractors, your part-time contracted people who help you, your virtual assistants, so forth, your clients. Send them a quick message, what you're thinking, that you're thinking about them. I use a company called Send Out Cards to send mail cards to people's houses. I can mail them anywhere in the world. And you can set up systems to remember to do that. And the reason why I set it up underneath, so for example, groups of meeting planners or a really big conference I've spoken at many times, all the organizers are in there. And that way, if let's say as the business grows, I can't always be the one messaging them, my folks can help be an extension of me to show appreciation and stay connected. You have to have a good CRM, your customer relationship management system. Keep track of details like when you last spoke with them, what's important to them, what are their big issues. This is how you show that you're listening, you pay attention, you value them, not just what can you do for me? I care about you. How can I truly serve and support you? And frankly, just being kind. One of the things that just a small little thing that happened yesterday, my bookkeeper, well-intentioned, she sent some reminders to folks who were behind in their 30-day net. And I had verbally said to her, what I'd like to make sure that we say, just to be very caring about people during COVID is, and I said probably 3 sentences that came very naturally to me. And she said, no problem, I'll do that. And one of the individuals that the message was sent to felt that they had paid it already. And when I read the message, it was very terse. Mm-hmm. It was, you need to pay and, do this promptly. And it was not my words. So initially I was annoyed. I've articulated why it's important. And we think why, Simon Sinek's why. If we share the why, then we're all on the same page. No, you know what? I own responsibility that email went out improperly. You know why? Because I didn't write it down. We have Trello for communicating back and forth. We have texting. We have phone calls. We can do a script. So I said to my daughter on our 4:30 wellness walk last night, I love
that you have that scheduled.
We have that scheduled. We didn't have it before COVID, but now that everybody's home and everybody needs to exercise, we have it now. She was asking me how my day was. I asked what her day was. And I said, I let 2 people down today. I let my client that feels that she had paid her bill down. And I let my team member down because I didn't set her up for success. And we talked about that. My daughter has no desire to be an entrepreneur. She has every desire to be a psychologist. So that's totally different. But the point is, it would be really easy as an entrepreneur to say, I can manage it, but it's just me. But as soon as it's more than one person, then the business changes. Well, what's important to you that no matter how big your business grows, you still make sure that it preserves the same integrity as if it were a one person shop. And so these are some of the things that I recommend. Know what's important to you, systematize it. When it fails you, own 100% responsibility. Keep trying to tweak it so that you standardize it and make it work. Did I answer your question, Ravi?
You totally did. I love that you're talking about systematizing it and honestly, it's easier to start that with a smaller business than to build it into a larger, because then you get into all this policy procedure stuff that can get annoying.
And it can humanize the policies and procedures that can be annoying. Because, believe me, when I talk about systems, ask me if I want to do that. No. Recognition expert, that is the last thing I want to do with my time. What was I working on before you and I got on the phone? Creating the chatbot automation for my website. Talk about please let 3:00 come. Please, I want to just talk to Ravi. I don't want to be doing this. However, it's important. If I don't figure out how to get it right and have a good customer experience, how can I ask anybody else to do that on my team? Yeah. So we have to discipline ourselves. For those of you who are entrepreneurs and you're thinking, oh, well, that's okay for Ravi and Sarah because they think in terms of processes and systems. Whether we do or don't, we're not even going to disclose that. Obviously you do because of your background, your training. It doesn't come naturally and easily to me. But I know the fallout and the cost of not doing it is to people. So I have to do it. Yeah.
And I believe in systems. I'm also very biased to keeping it simple, the simplest things that you can that work. Simplicity works. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to recognition, are there different ways that people want to be recognized as, and how can you figure out what each person wants? It's like, oh my God, now I'm supposed to be psychic too.
You don't have to be psychic. You just have to be curious. And so that's where a tool like the recognition checklist could be very helpful. Because if I know you like private recognition and Sarah likes public recognition, I know, shocking, right? I'm not going to embarrass you by calling you out at a team meeting. I maybe instead come to you very discreetly and say it with very vivid detail of how great you are and how much I appreciate you. And you can also say, and I want to make sure that you are comfortable with me mentioning in the team meeting that we had this conversation, or would you prefer it to just stay between us? Some people will say, no, just keep it between us. I appreciate you came to me. It would be embarrassing to do it in front of the group. And other people who prefer it to be private will say, you know what, now that you've shared with me what you're going to say, I think I'm okay with that. And they can edit even what you're going to say. Somebody who likes it to be public, they probably want it to be a surprise and specific. And similarly, you can follow it up with on their employee record, an acknowledgement, or on a virtual kudos board. So you can find out what people want. It generally does not change over time. So once you ask once, you forever know that. And if any of your listeners want a spreadsheet where you can put it all together on one place, again, I'm not a big spreadsheet person, but that's what some of my clients have. They're really big teams. They need to sort of consolidate it in one place. But for me, when I would lead teams, I would just have them fill out the sheet of paper and I'd keep it in a file folder on my desk. So when somebody's working late on a project, and I never ask them to stay late, but it's their third day in a row that they have missed dinner with their family, I can go to Tim Hortons. Any of you listening outside of Canada, you'll spend a lot more on a coffee.
I think there's Tim's in the States too.
That's true. So you can only spend $2 to make somebody's day. You go and you get a coffee or tea exactly how they want it. And you bring it to them and you say, thank you so much for working extra. I really want you to know, I see how many extra hours you're putting in. I value it. I appreciate it. This project's going to be so much better as a result of this extra time and care. And here's a small token of my appreciation. And you give them the green tea with half a creamer and 2 sweeteners, the way even their spouse doesn't even know how to make them, make it for them still. And they will be loyal to you forever. In fact, they will be more likely to put in extra discretionary effort. So It doesn't take much. Fortunately, you don't have to be a mind reader. If you aren't quite sure, so let's say it's a new customer, new supplier, and you haven't had an opportunity to ask them yet. A thank you. This is where we go back to those standard ways. Say thank you. Look them in the eye if it's culturally appropriate. One cool thing that e-speakers did, they work with me a little bit on how do we create a customer, long service appreciation, long customer appreciation. And so they came up with this great idea in our work together that at 2, 5, and 10-year intervals, and then I'm sure they'll have beyond that, they design the t-shirt that you can't buy. So 1 year it says killing it. And on the backside, it's like, and you should see what I'm like on the stage. Or, this year it was keep calm, zoom on with the e-speakers emblem on the back. So every year it's different. What they're hoping, and I think it's starting to happen, is people are so delighted when they either go to convention and they're like, hey, Ravi, you've been with us 5 years. I want to give you something. And you come over to the booth and they give it to you. Or you haven't been to convention, or it's, this virtual age that nobody's going anywhere these days. Stay home, be safe. They send it to your house.
Public service announcement.
Yeah, that's right. So that is something that people don't expect. That is something that people will remember, though.
Okay.
So these are the things that you don't have to necessarily be a mind reader to. You can just try some things, do your best. If it doesn't quite work out, try something else.
Yeah.
People are not that confusing, though.
And like I always say, it's not rocket science, right? With CAPS, with our Professional Speakers Association, I just last year got my 20-year pin, and that means so much. Yeah. Right? Just a little pin. But I mean, this is an organization that means so much to me, but that just, fills my heart. Yeah. So, and here's something that we're trying to do to improve it in our chapter, because we have such a large chapter. We were giving the pins out in person.
Well, when this year,
Right.
the 2020 folks moving into 2021, we're not going to be able to give them. Similarly, because we have members from all over Ontario, mostly the Toronto GTA area, but we have a lot of folks who travel a ton. So
Yeah.
don't always get to our meetings. Well, we have a collection over the last couple of years of people who haven't been to many meetings. We can't get access to them right now because they're with our AV guy and we're trying to get a hold of him and haven't had any luck yet. So yes, a pin is great if it gets given. It's not great if it gets missed. So for anyone who has recognition rituals, find a way to, problem proof it, so to speak.
Yeah. I think most chapters sent it with a handwritten note from the chapter president or something this year.
So that's what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get all the pins that we haven't given out up to now. Mm-hmm. And if we can't get our hands on them because we can't reach this person, I'm suggesting we have them all redone over the last couple of years. And I'm going to handwrite a note. So 3-4 years worth of pins are all going to go out, even if they're late. At least we send them. And I'm recommending that we move to that as our go-to process going forward.
Right.
Bring them to the first meeting of the year, hand out the thank you cards with the pin for anyone who's there. Everyone else gets it sent in the mail. And that wasn't a problem until COVID.
Yes.
So when you experience a problem with your recognition rituals, find a way to find a solution as opposed to, it's broken. That doesn't work.
But there's always, like one of my coaching clients, when we get together for her to plan out the year, end of the year, and always I've gone to her office for 10 years and I bring coffee. I stop at Starbucks. I don't go to Tim's. I go to Starbucks.
Well, she's obviously a good customer, good client if you're going to Starbucks. Yeah.
But we had to do it virtually, right?
Yeah.
So, and she was just saying, and I don't get the coffee. And just then Uber Eats dropped her Starbucks off right there.
Ravi.
Right?
This is one of the reasons you're my fave. I love that. So great.
So, this pops a question in my head. I don't know if you've ever been asked this.
Oh, I can't wait to hear it then.
But have you ever looked at a correlation between the different ways people like to be recognized and the 5 love languages? Like, I'm sure you couldn't do, there's politically correct things about touch, but there's acts of service. Because you talked about bringing the coffee. Have you ever looked into that, the correlation?
Yeah, I haven't done the research and we don't have a database that I'm aware of. I'm sure the folks who've written the book must have a database. The databases that I dig into from the research for my books and for my keynotes is engagement survey data. So, because that's where you have millions of engagement survey data points that you can analyze and see after the fact, not with people trying to prove a hypothesis right. You truly have benign, no objective, no hidden agenda data. That's what I really like to use.
Yes.
And given that most organizations have a consistent, regular process and that they need to do something with this. And frankly, a lot of organizations don't use it. It at least makes me feel better about the field of human resources that we're doing something, even if it's some strange blonde woman doing something with it long after the fact that the huge database, at least somebody's using it and acting on it. So I can't say that I have a direct correlation and evidence to provide you.
But have you noticed anything if you've read the 5 love languages?
Yes, I have. Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, I talk about it in our first book, Forever Recognize Others' Greatness, because that's often these things, whatever the hook is in people's minds, that's what we want. So that if that's what makes sense for you as an entrepreneur, Ravi, or your leaders, by all means, 5 love languages or 5 languages of appreciation. Awesome. What I will say is that they propose that there's generally 2 languages that people speak more of than others. And I would say that I have seen that in practice. I can't validate it in research. What I would suggest to folks, if you want to be not a mind reader, but you want to be a bit of a forensic people investigator, listen for the words people use. Do they say, I see, I feel, I hear, I'm touched, those would be indications of likely the love language. So if you say, I'm really touched, they might want something given to them. If it's, I feel, they probably want somebody to articulate, verbalize, that appreciation. So, and the other thing that I would say is depending on the way your organization structures your compensation and benefits, and the type of profession you're in. So a lawyer or a sales professional, probably some of their love language is around the, gifts. Because A, that's how they are incentivized. And B, that may also attract certain people with that particular, I don't know which chicken or the egg. I'm not sure. Right. Maybe it's a bit of both. So that's what I would say. The other thing is that if you have, we can be a little bit tempted to place professions all in the same bucket. So nurses must like verbal, acknowledgement of appreciation. They may, and also some people may really want a gift card, and other people may really want you to, put your hand on their shoulder if you're, a close colleague and say, are you doing okay? I noticed your body language. And so look for the signs. The way in which you give appreciation, it actually indicates to other people the way you probably want it yourself. Right. And so it's studying human behavior, but that fascinates us. It doesn't fascinate everybody. So if you're not a big into studying human behavior, just ask people and they'll tell you.
Yep. Well, and because I think all of this about recognition, it's not just about work, it's in all of our relationships, right? But
100%. Yeah.
So just to bring this all to a head, if you could leave our listeners with one step or one piece of advice, what would be your gold?
What I would suggest, particularly now more than ever, practice everything that works at home. At home for yourself, like at home as in your own, mind and body and so forth, because we often give ourselves appreciation last. We put ourselves last on the list. We break promises to ourselves. You can't give what you don't have. So recognize your own greatness. And that seems to be pretty tough. It seems these days. That's certainly what I'm seeing in my coaching clients. And obviously you are too. And related to that, do it in your family. The more comfortable you are with your family, your friends of practicing this, the easier and more fluid it becomes with people who are not as close to you. So I would suggest that do that more now than ever. I live with my husband and my 2 teenagers, and I notice when we start to get a little bit, tense with each other, if I sit back and I put on my recognition expert hat and I think to myself, when was the last time I genuinely acknowledged their greatness? And what ratio is that to the number of times I've asked them to do dishes, or I've asked if they've finished their assignment, or if the ratio is off, that is there. I see a direct result in my family of having more tension, of spending people wanting to spend, choosing to spend more time with us. So I would suggest lean into recognition in all the important people in your life. And remember, it crosses the digital divide. So just because you can't see your family, your friends, your clients, your colleagues, doesn't mean that you don't also benefit by sending out some appreciation that way too.
Right. I'm so glad that you touched there on the recognizing yourself. And maybe I'll just sneak one more question in, because I've seen. How do you recognize yourself, Sarah?
Oh, thank you for asking that, Ravi. Okay, confession time. So I had 2 burnouts in 2020. I pushed so hard. I think we're very similar. Hard work ethic. We see things to completion. That was how I recognized myself last year, was if I kept pushing through it, kept finding solutions, not get, not let any roadblock stand back. That's what I could be proud of. It was very conditional. It was, if you keep working harder and you keep at it, then that's what I'm going to acknowledge in myself. And then I burnt out. So what do you have left to acknowledge? If you don't have the energy and you need to take a break and pull back. And that's when you have to get really real with yourself, is when you can't appreciate yourself in the way you've scripted what your own self-value is. So I've shifted what I appreciate about myself. It's the walks with my daughter and not breaking promises to her. It's leisure time. It's saying no to things rather than yes to things. So what I would like to suggest to folks is that your self acknowledgement is going to change over time. It's situational. It's based on your values and what's most important to you at the time. What do you need to do to nurture yourself right now? Do you have really strong, great relationships in your life right now? If not, you need to really lean in and be your own support and ask for help when you need help. People who are your raving fans to do that. Shocking. I know. So that's what I would say is that what do I do to recognize myself this year in 2021? It's noticing all of the little micro examples of how I have resisted the urge to do more and be more and prove myself and just lean into who I am and the leisure and the well-being. So I hope that helps. Did that answer your question?
Thank you for sharing that because I believe that's so important. It has to start with yourself and then flow out.
What about you, Ravi? I want to know, how do you recognize yourself?
As you know, my greatest joy this year, dance has been taken away. Although there's one person who's also very protective of their parents. We've bubbled together to practice once in a while. But I've ramped up my beach walks, my hikes, that's healing, doing the meditation I need, doing the reading. So I'm just, it's the being gentle on yourself. So Sarah, the best way I would guess for people to get a hold of you is your website, right? Greatness Magnified.
Yeah. Absolutely. And hopefully I'll have a working chatbot by then.
Yeah, so we can pose all sorts of questions for you to debug that.
Questions. Test it, please.
So Sarah, what is the meaning of life? No.
Yes. Well, that would be fascinating if I could answer that quickly in a text. But hey, try me.
It's 42. Look it up.
Yeah.
But you've also got a YouTube channel. You've got your Great Happy People Facebook group, which is amazing, wonderful. So all sorts of ways. But those resources, including that checklist, are on your website, correct?
Absolutely, for sure. Yeah, and I'm on every form of social, including TikTok, much to my kids' chagrin. So.
Really? I just went on TikTok in the last month myself.
There's one video. I'm not probably going to, be super accessible. I'm going to have to figure out what am I going to be on TikTok? Am I going to, talk about recognition? Am I going to bake bread, dance moves? I think you should have a dance TikTok.
Actually, I'm totally on TikTok in my TikToks because I'm talking about mindfulness. So it's not the flick through quickly.
Okay. Well, I can't wait to follow you. That's awesome. Yeah. You should put that in the show notes, how people can follow your TikTok.
And your TikTok. Haha, pressure.
You better start putting stuff on it.
So thank you so much, Sarah, for joining me. Truly, truly a delight as always. And I can say that you do practice, with our volunteer work and such, and with work that we've done, that you practice what you preach. And that is wonderful to see.
Thank you. I will receive your compliment with wonderful gratitude. So thanks, Ravi. And you are just a total amazing human. And I think that this is really generous that you offer this podcast so regularly. So it was a pleasure spending an hour with you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this podcast. And if you found it of value, could I ask you a favor? Could you share it on social media and perhaps share what made it so useful to you? That's how we spread word about this. And if you've got a moment, if you could go onto iTunes or wherever you get your podcast and do a quick review on this and share again what made it so useful to you. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
'cause I know I'll take it farther. And everyone that knows me knows that I am